Welcome to another episode of Kiss My Assets.
The transparency, the openness, the communication is more than you could expect. I'm sold.
Don't let the fact that you don't know something or don't know enough about something hold you back.
I knew I wanted to invest. What better way to invest than to invest in what I already know that I love, which is real estate.
It was initially the 12% return, but it quickly turned into the people.
Welcome back to another episode of Kiss My Assets. My name is Bella Hoffman, and I'm an investor relations account manager here. And usually you will see some men in the room, but today we are bringing in the ladies. I have four wonderful ladies in the room with me today. Go ahead and start by introducing yourself.
I'm Heather Andrews. I also work in investor relations.
I'm Heidi Butler, and I work in finance.
I'm Amanda Schwicht, and I worked in marketing.
And then we have Oakley behind the camera, and she is our everything content related.
Yeah.
But today on the podcast, we are going to be talking about women in multifamily and finances in general. Let's just go ahead and start off with you guys sharing your roles here, or sharing what you do here at Neighborhood Ventures and how it relates to finance or multifamily.
So, like I said, I work in marketing, and so we do a lot of research and understanding the impact that finance has and multifamily and those investments. And so there's constant articles getting out there, we send them out in the emails that you guys get every week. But really having to understand the market finances and then how to communicate that over to you guys, so that way you have the information.
And then I just work in finance, so it's all finance and multifamily. So the day-to-day finances of the company, all the distributions and investments, we handle the collections and maintaining all your finances. So it's kind of just everything.
Yeah.
All the numbers.
All the numbers.
Which I'm glad. And I mostly get to talk on the phone to our investors that's my favorite part.
Yeah. Because
they are fun and interesting. And it's nice to see them reaching goals, financial goals, and that we're able to be a part of that.
So many stories.
Mm-hmm. Our investor stories is one of our favorite podcasts, I think.
Well, with that being said, one thing that ties into finances is a quote that I once heard one time. And it's, if you wait until you're ready, you'll never be ready. And I think that can go for many things in life, but definitely with finances. So if you guys just don't mind sharing, was there a time in your guys' life where you actually felt ready, or did you just dive in? What was that experience like for you when it comes to finance and learning all the ins and outs?
A thing I wish I had done, that there was no reason I was ready, I should have done it. And then this many years later, I can see, that would have been a good idea. When I was a teenager, I worked for Bill Patel at Moon Valley Dry Cleaners, if he's watching. And he would tell all of us teenagers over and over to start an IRA. Start putting money in this IRA. And when you are 40 years old, you're going to have this amount of money. And my first thoughts were, I'll never be 40. That's ridiculous. I'm young forever. But yeah, of course, anytime. I'm going to start at any time, Bill. No problem. And then didn't and do not have that large sum of money, but had to start a little bit later, being like, you know what? Bill Patel was correct, and I can do it now. And I'm ready. There's no reason to not start now and put that money in now. So sorry, Bill.
Mine kind of goes similar to yours. In high school, I was really lucky to have a financial class that we took. And we learned so much, like Dave Ramsey. We played the rat race game. That was fun. But one of the most important things was understanding how to manage your money to create a successful lifestyle for yourself, and prioritizing, separating. And then we spent a lot of time learning the differences between IRAs and Roth IRAs. Yeah. And the fact that if you start early, then that money really is going to add up, so that by the time you pull it out when you're 40 or whenever you need it, you're going to have quite a bit there ready for you. Yeah. And so, I didn't take that at first either, but a few years ago, I really started looking at my life and saying, okay, I need to start planning and figuring out this stuff, because I needed to understand,
the time will pass.
Time will pass.
You will be 40.
Mm-hmm.
That is my warning to all of you. It's coming.
It's coming.
You might as well be rich when you're 40.
True. I think the next thing after that was like, I realized I was spending so much time planning for it and like being prepared.
Yeah.
Then I hadn't started actually investing or putting that money away. It was just like getting ready to be at that point where I could. And that was a big wake up call when I connected that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing that they're seeing overall, is that previous generations, females, women didn't start thinking about their finances until they're in their 30s, late 30s, where this generation and future generations are starting in their 20s to start looking at, how do I prepare for like my retirement in the future? That it's not just waiting for it and like trying to push it off. It's like they feel the rush of needing to prepare now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's actually a statistic, and it's that men apply themselves when they're 40% ready, and women wait until we're 100% ready. And that ties into that like cliche saying of, oh, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. But it's so true, and just leads us to, the topic of confidence and not waiting until you're 100% ready and just going for it and applying yourself.
Well, I think women have been so socialized to be perfect. There's this
Mm-hmm.
expectation of perfection, and then that leaks into kind of financial preparedness, and so we do want it to be perfect. We're not ready until we're absolutely sure we've done all the research. I could spend my whole day just doing the research, but never pulling, that last little step. And so it's nice to see younger women now making a leap faster, or being willing to be a little more risky.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loves like a risky woman. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'll say Heidi, she said this to me a few weeks ago, but like now is really the time in our lives where we have the opportunity to go out and take these risks, these chances, like, and to be able to like, just why not give it a shot? Like, it's better to fail early and learn than to wait and then be afraid to try later.
Well, I think that brings up a really good point, because I look at generations now versus my parents and their parents' generation of women's role in finance for the household in general. And men were the providers, women stayed at home. They allowed men to take care of a lot of the finances, and then their role was just to, maybe take care of the bills, and that was it, if that was even a part of it. But I remember in high school, there was a gal I worked with at a flower shop, and she was in her late 50s, early 60s, and she'd been taken care of by her husband, who was like a mailman, just did everything for her, doted on her hand and foot. But when he'd passed away, all of a sudden, she had no idea what their finances were. She had no idea what savings accounts they had, if the house was even paid off. She had no idea. And so now she's faced with not only the passing of her husband, but making these major financial decisions with no education or understanding of what's happening.
And statistically, women live longer than men.
Yeah.
There is a Golden Girls future ahead of you, more than likely, and you might as well have it be wonderful and fabulous and be in the south of France and eating goat cheese. Like, yeah, you don't want to wake up and go, oh, I don't even know where to find the accounts.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I think that some people, I don't know the statistics on this, but those who were raised in a household where there was poverty, they often feel more inclined to be more knowledgeable on finances in the future. But also thinking of the contrast to that, I know people that are my age that were just given everything in life, and then now that their parents have cut them off, they're figuring it out. And it's tough, there's both ways, but whichever way it is, the taking that responsibility and just going for it is something that's very important when it comes to finances.
I've been surprised. We've had quite a few women who have started investing with us because they started to think about their children, and they wanted to set a good financial example for their children. They're thinking about their future and didn't want them to have to struggle the way they did or wait as long. And so that's nice to see. I admire that.
45% of our investors are actually females.
Mm-hmm. So, and we like them all.
Cheers to you guys.
Yes. Well, I think that brings up another great point of what motivates women to go into different investment pools than men.
Yeah.
Right. So I think women are statistically more likely to stay with investments, to find ones that they can hold long term. They're not looking to move around as much as men are. They're a little bit more risk adverse, for sure. And that's kind of what we see specifically with our investors, and specifically in multifamily.
Yeah.
So we're now seeing women making financial decisions, younger women coming in and trying to start setting the ground for what they're going to do. And a lot of them are turning towards multifamily assets. because of the strength
Yeah.
of multifamily. They're fine with the long-term commitment and the social impact, and like being able to be a part of like the changes that are happening and feeling like they're actually making a difference.
I know. I think real estate in particular really speaks to that kind of personality.
Absolutely.
That we know it's much more stable than the stock market. I don't have the heart for the stock market. I can't do the up and down. I want to put my money in and just let it grow. I don't want to think about it again. I have other things to do. I am too busy, and women are busy multitasking. We have other things to do.
That is true.
Yeah.
Very true.
I was just going to say, what multitask with multifamily?
Yeah.
There you are.
Yeah. So with this industry being male dominated, what brought you guys into this industry?
I've always loved finance. Finances, numbers for me is like bread and butter. I could just sit with a calculator and have a ball my whole life.
That sounds awful.
It's
Yeah, it
It's
does.
wonderful.
It's
Excel.
anxiety.
I love Excel. Like play with it as a child, could just play with it forever. So for me, finance has always been a passion. But I was introduced to this specific company, Neighborhood Ventures, in 2018 when I got married. And we were passing through Arizona and we stopped by. And it really caught my attention that this person from Wall Street, Jameson, decided to like leave this kind of lucrative career to come to Phoenix and start this like multifamily project so that everyone could be a part of it and could invest, and that it wasn't limited to only a few, right?
Yeah.
So he could have gone out and him and John could find $1 million investors and do all these projects and make great money and be done with it. But they both wanted to make an impact on their community.
Yeah. So that accessibility really speaks to you.
Oh, absolutely. I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, I love this company. It would be so great to work here. And worked really hard so that I could. And for me, it's amazing to see not only how big the female community was for me. I was like really surprised how some of our biggest investors are not only just females, but like female driven families.
Yes.
Like huge.
The-
And that was amazing for me.
really interesting, smart women.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, some of my favorite people, some of our favorite investors are like some of our strongest female investors, and they've just really like taken a hold of their lives. So for me, I joined because of the community impact, but I stayed because I love seeing the impact not only our company is having, but just these people in this community have on each other. And like they influence me all the time.
Right. I didn't know much about multifamily or investing in general when I joined, and I joined solely based off of the vision that Jameson has for us as a company, and that was inspiring to me. And I left a big company to be here, and I had to be on board with the vision. Like it had to align. And so that's really what drew me in. But with that being said, I'm just learning as I go. I'm learning so much that I'm implementing into my own life, and that's rewarding for sure.
Before this, I was working in retail for like years and years, and like I kind of felt the cycle. And like many like normal jobs, like you start to notice like you work for certain promotions, and then once you get that, like you actually have more responsibilities than what the promotion entailed, and you're taking on so much more, but you are afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And probably like 2019 or so is when like I was introduced to the Kiss My Asset podcast, and like I started listening to it and like watching different videos and just kind of getting excited. And like I talked to some of the people who worked here, and just everyone had the same exact passion. They loved the vision, they loved the expertise, and then they also loved how like John and Jameson were managing the team, the company, and the vision in order to create like this wonderful future for their company and our projects, and most importantly our investors. And so over time, like kind of just worked with that network, and eventually ended up with a bit of luck. I started working here. And
Well, my favorite thing that I hope it's okay to tell
please,
is that Jameson saw you playing Monopoly.
he did see me playing Monopoly very
Oh my God,
poorly.
I remember
Yeah,
this
but-
story.
Impressed him enough that he could see how your brain worked, and he thought, oh, there's a fit for you here,
Wow.
Mhm.
just from a game of Monopoly.
Mhm.
So that you never know.
Board games change your life.
Yeah. So it's a good
Yeah.
endorsement for Monopoly. I came from a 20-year very lucrative career in a whole nother industry in a whole nother state in Manhattan. But what I found was there was a good translation of like my skill set that just had to do with caretaking. And that's my favorite part of investor relations, and I know you come from a very strong customer service kind of background and taking care of people, hospitality and taking care of people, and so that worked well. And I think we have such wonderful, open, interesting investors that keeps that interesting. And then kind of by accident or along the way, you're like, oh, this financial part of it is also very interesting. And it's interesting to look at the market and how it's changing, and just a whole separate education that has come that I wasn't anticipating. And so that's been really wonderful. Otherwise, I never would have gotten near anything financial because that's scary and boring. But it's turned out not to be.
One thing I have noticed, especially in finance, and this comes from a quote from advice from the top female financial advisors in the company, is they say that men tend to see money as a means to freedom, where women tend to see money as a means to security. And like, have you guys noticed that in your different roles in the company?
Yeah, I think so. And I just personally, I want security, I want stability. But I don't know if that's different for younger generations. They're saying even like Gen X is tracking more to be the most financially savvy and the most kind of educated. And where for me, it was like, I just want to know everything's paid for. I just want to know my home is going to stay my home. And you never talk about money. But it's much different now. And so, yeah, I'm more interested in what kind of the young people.
Early life, even like early 20s, security, 100%. Like, I grew up always kind of wondering a little bit like about money and just what impact, and like always trying to get a job or two to like make sure I can make that difference and like work hard and make sure I had a secure life and I wasn't going to have to be afraid. And I think probably around like 24, 25 is when I swapped my mentality from security to freedom. And like, it's crazy the difference in perspective. Like, money isn't about guarantee, it's about being able to have the leverage to have your life. And it's not like money is everything, but money gives you the freedom to do many things. And
it's choices.
Exactly. It's choices, it's options. And the way I handled finances when I was thinking about security versus when I was thinking about freedom is completely different.
Yeah.
So.
I grew up with divorced parents, and so that kind of, I feel like when you have divorced parents, it wrecks the finances of understanding them in ways. But who I really learned from were the families that I nannied for growing up. They were very successful. And I remember one of them telling me, you need to have a purpose for your money. Like, your money needs to have plans behind it on what it is doing or what it's going to do. And so, they explained, and which I'm so thankful for, similar to what you were saying, how back in the day, like that was something you don't speak of. Like, he straight up talked to me, the dad did. And he was like, this is how we model our finances. And then the moment that he told me that, it was like so cool, because it was the first time that I had heard how somebody else allocates their finances. And then of course, as I felt the conversations were right, I would ask others if it would come up or see if they would be willing to tell me, look, I didn't have the parents that went over how you do this. Do you mind sharing your model? And then I hear other people's, and I'm like, wow, there's so many different ways to do things. It's, what is going to align for you in the moment.
It is funny because there are taboo topics, and like the taboo topics for my grandparents are like the most important topics people can talk about with their kids today, like to make sure that they're educated in it. And it's almost like the fear of the unknown is what they had. And like for us, it's like, know what you're up against so you know how to handle it. Like, know what it's going to cost to have a mortgage, know what it's going to cost for your taxes. Like, just start getting as much information as possible in order to prepare yourself for what's going to be coming. Otherwise, it's kind of like this scary thing you're never going to know. And you're finally like buying your first house, and you're like, what is mortgage insurance? What are property taxes going to be like? And all these new expenses.
And bought my first home at an older age. I was going to rent forever in New York City. But one of the most emotionally draining experiences, because it wasn't something I considered or cared about. And then when I had to learn it kind of at that moment, I think, I wish I had learned about this sooner. I would have felt a little more prepared, and because it's a process. Yeah. I can see why people are they prefer to rent.
Yeah. I think all of our experiences really are valuable to learning from each other's and inspiring others. What would you guys say is a main starting point for somebody that wants to gain financial independence.
You made a good point of, you talked to an employer of yours, and they were open. People want to teach, they want to share, and I think it's good to start going around to people in your life or people you know, and be as bold to say, how do you make money? How are you rich? How are you doing this? And people will be thrilled to share, because they're proud of what they've done. And I think you start looking for mentors and people that you admire, and asking for their advice. And I think there's so many resources now available.
Totally.
They're so embarrassing, but there's a lady, Miss Dow Jones, on TikTok, who I think is so smart, and she's so clever and has such good information. And then there's a podcast that I like, Financial Feminist, who is wonderful information. And so I think it's seeking out, being a little proactive and talking to real people and resources that are available.
I would say that education piece is something that is so important, but it's like self-education. You can't just go through life thinking that it's all going to come to you. You have to go out and learn. And like, for me, I followed the first person finance related was somebody I followed on Instagram called the She-Wolf of Wall Street. And she's self-taught, and she now has her own platform where she sells like master classes and makes videos on and teaches people about retirement, savings, budgeting, emergency fund, things like that. And just from scrolling here and there, not even researching, but just looking, having her on my feed every day, it was like, all right, that was like giving me, like hints of like, wow, I'm interested in learning more. But that can only go so far. It was when I started listening to more podcasts, it was when I started talking to more people, and then being vulnerable in a way to ask those questions when the time is right. So I do think that self-knowledge is important in that realm of figuring out more about how to become financially independent.
And I think what will surprise people is when you go ask these people this question, I'd be very surprised, and I'm sure there's probably like 5 out there, but most people are so happy to tell you because they want you to learn. Like, we are so lucky in our office space. We've got so many great people here that have asked financial advice from. And you do have to be careful. Only ask financial advice from people that you would want to live their life. If you don't want the life they're living, they're probably not the one you want to ask for financial advice. But there's so many people out there, and they want to share it with you. You just have to be willing to ask. And one other thing I know, and like this is kind of me in my world of what I'm trying to achieve in my life, but I think is huge, especially with the younger generations just starting your career, finding a way. And like, this is me right now. I'm trying to figure out a way that my investments that I'm purchasing pay for my entire life, and that my career is just bonus money I'm making on top of it. That like my investments pay for everything I needed to pay for. And so then your career can be anything you want it to be. And that gives you the freedom to do things that you wouldn't normally do. So finding a way to start early, putting money into a retirement account, doing these things that can provide you a life that you want to live.
So very like long-term minded.
Absolutely.
Which is necessary with real estate. It is long-term and it pays off.
For sure.
And just as a plug to Neighborhood Ventures, I think our content and our marketing is an excellent job of providing resources on our website. There's a masterclass that our CEOs put together. The podcast. We have so much information for people who are ready to start learning about multifamily and real estate.
Yeah, along with those resources, I think one of the things is people feel like, especially in investing, you have to have tens of thousands of dollars ready, like today, to put it down. And that's the other part of the commitment, that 100% versus men being ready at 40%. Okay, so they did a study, and they showed 2 investors that both started putting $100 per month away into an investment, and it made 8% a year. And so they showed investor A, who started at 25, and investor B, who started at 35. And the second investor, 10 years behind, started putting $200 a month to try to make up for what they'd lost. So investor A, age 25, in total contributed $48,000 by the age 65. And then investor B, who started at 35, contributed $72,000 by the time they turned 65. Okay. So investor A's ending balance ended up being $335,000, where investor B's balance only ended up being $93,000. And so it's just even the small difference of starting earlier and such a small amount, which is one
Yes.
thing I love about our company, is that you can do auto invest for like $100. You know, you do $1,000 investment. It's just a little small amount
And it's
get into it.
manageable.
Yes.
That is an easy commitment.
I can do
I can do $100
that's a
a month.
subscription I pay for.
and
I
it
can
adds
put it
up.
in.
Yep.
But just the
That's my
impact
Diet
difference
Coke
of
budget.
starting.
Yep.
But the impact of starting that early and what that money can do for you versus trying to, you know, my dad would say, eat the entire whale. Like, take it one bite at a time and do a little section. $100 a month is way more manageable than trying to save up $20,000 to put towards something.
One other thing, especially with just like getting started, is you talked about like self-knowledge and stuff, but I think is knowledge of yourself and taking just like a cold look at like your situation, what you have going on, and then just, you can't really plan and take action before you actually know what you're working with. And it really doesn't necessarily matter where you're starting from, but just understanding, knowing where you're starting from. And like in life, a lot of things, like I have to look at it with a special cocktail of denial and determination. And that's how I got a lot of like big daunting things done, is like I look at it and I say, okay, this is what I need to do. This is the step I need to make, or this is the investment I need to have. And so I deny that there's going to be a way that I can't do it. And so like I take out any room for like true failure. And so then I'm determined to make it work no matter what. And maybe I mess up a few different times, but I have to keep going because I deny that this is not going to happen already in my mind.
Nice, nice. You're allowing yourself to dream.
Exactly. And then execute that dream.
That plan is so important because, you know, in order to understand how you're going to achieve your goals, you need to have a plan.
Exactly.
And developing that plan can get you far.
I would encourage any people who are thinking about getting involved or new to investing you can reach out to Bella or me and ask questions, and a wealth of information. We're ready to share and kind of help you. Tell us what your financial goals are, and we can tell you how this aligns with that and how we can help.
The best calls are the vulnerable ones where people can say, I don't know anything, but I want to start. That right there is like, that fires me up. I get excited.
Right.
You know, and this is even
like,
new
I
to
have
me,
the
but I'm still
information.
excited. I'm like, wow, I want to share. And it's funny talking to friends from home and asking what I'm doing now. And they're like, would you want to like have a call, like obviously to catch up, but also to just share more about investing? And I'm like, oh my goodness, like who would have thought?
Well, and I think we found that some of our strongest marketing still is word of mouth.
Yeah.
Oh,
it is our investors talking to their friends and family, and which I think is a huge compliment. And the people are excited about what we're doing here and how it's working for them.
The other thing I gotta say is, I know it's always important to make a plan, but it goes back to women are going to wait until they feel 100% ready. And we can't afford to wait. We have to start taking that risk at that 40% that men are, because that's when we're going to really be able to make that difference in our lives. There's never going to be a foolproof plan. It's investing.
Right.
So
overall, I think we all can agree to find a resource that you align with and go out and just make it happen.